one for dreamers.
I think Liz should start. That's how we should begin.
Here's one for every time they jumped without a net.
And something that I've been thinking a lot about lately is, what is it about our contemporary culture that we want to send the message that college is a place that you don't need to come to learn, right? Like when we talk about basic writing, and we all know the cultural pressures that are trying to push basic writing out of higher ed, why is it that we want to create a society where we want to send the message that you don't come to college to learn? Like if you have something to learn, you don't need to come here because we don't want to teach it to you. That seems to me a very odd and strange message that we would want to send in higher ed. I am currently studying, because I have so much free time, to be a dive master for scuba diving. And hopefully later I will be studying to be an instructor. But, you know, as with anything, when you are learning something new, or for me, when I'm learning something new, I often fail a lot of times when I'm starting out. And the very first pool session I had with my instructor, I'm really type A, anal A student. I get A's. I always get A's. If I don't get A's, then bad things happen. So we got in the pool, and I had to, when you are learning to be a dive master, it's not about whether or not you have a particular diving skill, it's about whether or not you have what's called demonstration level quality skills. Because you can't talk, like I can talk my way out of a paper bag, but underwater, when we are all breathing off of our regulators, I cannot speak. So how can it's been explained to me as if I am doing a ballet with my hands to show students what I want them to do. So the very first pool session, we went down, I was totally prepped, I had like really thought about it, and so we go down, we're in the pool, I do my first 3 things, and he writes fail. He had a slate, and he wrote my name and fail. My name and fail. I freaked out. Like, how could that be? And I retold the story to another friend of mine who is a dive master. I said, and he wrote it in red. And my friend said, no, he didn't write it in red. And I said, yes, he wrote fail in red, and it was terrible. He said, there are no red pens underwater. He wrote it in slate because that's what we use, and you're just thinking it was red because it was that upsetting to you. And he's right, it was not in red, and that was really funny. But here's the thing, in dive master training, I just do it again. And so the next time I did those skills, I got better. But I still didn't have the score that I wanted. So I went home and I practiced, and I went to the pool and I practiced, and I had some students that I practiced on, and then I was evaluated again. And now, like 4 months later, my skills are getting to the point where I'm getting the scores that I want, right? And I'm getting closer to where I want to be. But if that situation was me in a basic writing class, what would happen was I failed. If I was taking the Cat W, I failed. And the message is not try it again, not get better. The message is you fail. So the message is simultaneously, we don't want basic writing in higher ed because it doesn't belong here. Because, by the way, you didn't learn what you were supposed to learn before you walked through the door. And we don't actually want to teach you anything because you should already know that. And if we're going to condescend to include basic writing in our curriculum, we're going to give you the standardized tests. And if you fail, you fail because you're dumb and you fail. And we didn't actually want to teach you anyway, so move along, because we want to deal with people who we actually want to teach. I mean, that's what we're saying. We're not talking about the fact that that's what we're saying, and I'm not saying that any of us in this room believe that. I'm not saying that anyone who teaches basic writing and is committed to it believes that. I'm saying that's the message of higher ed. So it seems to me that we're at this really weird time where our culture sends the message that college is a place you don't come to learn. College is a place you come to prove that you already know everything so that you can go get a job and make more money. That seems strange. The second thing that it makes me think about is these questions of, are we actually actively shaping our curriculum, or is it being shaped for us? And if it's being shaped for us, who is shaping it and why? And what do we have to do about that? What do we want to do about that? What can we do about that? And in some cases, I mean, the answer is different in every case, but I spend a lot of time thinking about that because I actively teach basic writing. Basic writing is one of my favorite courses to teach. At LaGuardia, we all teach everything. I like teaching everything, but I spend a lot of time teaching basic writing. It's where my heart is, but my heart is not in the Cat W. and my heart is not in the Cat W. And over again, as my students and I are wrestling with it, I think, why am I spending time teaching this, and what is it preparing them to do? What am I actually preparing them to do? I think this has a lot to do with the cultural pressures that are on us around money, around the economy, around assessment, on what's going on in K through 12, technology, diversity, internationalization. We could make lists and lists and lists of things that are the cultural pressures, but it all comes back to the same question. What are the shifting roots of our curriculum? When I started to study basic writing with Pamela in my very first class, and then I went on to have more experience with her, more classes with her, it was really about social justice. Teaching basic writing was about access, and was about my commitment and learning the roots of all the amazing people who were these amazing pedagogues who I studied, who believed that the classroom is a place to shape social change and to shape the society that we have. But right now, that I don't mean that you might be doing that individually in your own classes, and I'm working really hard to try and do that in my classes, but that's not what basic writing is doing nationally. That's just not what we're doing. So what are the shifting roots of that curriculum, and what does it mean? I think that's really an important question to ask. Technology, for me, fits into that very much, as does ALP, because they are both avenues that are allowing us to shape the curriculum and to, I think, live in the contemporary moment where we are trying to interrupt all of that. But I don't know how successful we are in interrupting it. I don't know in the future how successful these strategies will be, but they're things I think about a lot. But I also promise you that as we think about the future of basic writing, a couple years ago at 4Cs, Kelly Ritter made up these awesome buttons that said, who is basic writing? And then I am basic writing, right? So you would wear one in one place and one on another place on your backpack. And it was cool because people were wearing them all overseas. But the thing is, there are always going to be basic writing students. They're not going away just because we push them out of higher ed or we put them in adult and continuing ed. There are always going to be students who need basic writing. It's just a question of what it's going to look like and where it is.
Here's one for misfits who broke